Okay, it is 6 o'clock, so I appreciate everyone getting on the call. It's 6 o'clock, April 20th, 2020. So we'll call the City Council meeting to order. I can do roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Ken Austin is here. Ken Austin is present. Dan Blankenship is here, present. Bob Hukin.
Still here.
Bob Hukin's here. Lisa Jones.
Here. Sorry, had on mute.
Lisa Jones is here. Ann McGinnis.
Here.
Chris Reinerson.
Here.
Sean Taylor.
Here.
Thank you. We have 7 city councilmen present. Qualifies for the quorum. Thank you. So next, I'm going to ask Reverend Brian Reese to lead us in prayer and the pledge.
Father, we come to you tonight. We thank you so much for the great weather today. I pray that you continue to strengthen and help all those who are our essential workers, our frontline workers, our emergency workers. God, I just pray that you just give them the strength and health that they need to continue doing what they're doing. And pray for wisdom tonight with the decisions that need to be made here. We'll thank you for all that you do. It's in your name we pray. Amen. Let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of America, to the
which
republic,
stands God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just out of curious, wonder what they're doing at home.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I just think we need to try to keep it as close to normal as possible. That's why I like to do that. I hope everybody's okay with it. That gets us to announcements, presentations, and public comment. I know we have Kirby, if you're on here. You have something?
Yeah, just a quick update on the new police officer that we had started due to the COVID restrictions. We have that officer doing his law enforcement academy training online as opposed to being in the office. And so we're going to try to get him sworn officially, maybe the next Board of Works meeting. Just depends on what kind of restrictions we're under and how far along he is on his online training. But we're still moving ahead with him as best we can and keeping him busy and kind of getting him ahead of the game for the academy. So that's an update on him. His name's Thomas Lovell.
Okay, thank you. And I know it's not on here. Matt, if you're on here, you also have a new fireman. You want to say a word about him?
Sure, Mayor. Thank you. So last Monday we had a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Miller start at the fire department. He spent 4 days in the office working normal office hours, getting some orientation stuff done. And then this Sunday or yesterday, he actually started on a shift for a 24-hour tour of duty, and that will be his new assignment every third day. Thank you.
You're welcome. Gentlemen, tell both your departments we appreciate what they do during this difficult time. So thank you. That gets us to the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Mr. Austin moved to approve.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blankenship. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Okay, hearing none, this will get us into the old business with public, all 3 of these items. I know the first item doesn't require a public hearing, but we decided to do a public hearing anyway. And I will just say also that well, we'll move on. Go ahead, Mr. Austin.
I move to read old business by title only, please.
Okay, motion to read old business by title only. Second by Mr. Blankenship. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Any opposed? Okay, what I was getting ready to say, under these public hearing votes, we're going to do a roll call vote. So whenever they come up, we'll be asking for roll call up or down. So thank you.
And Mayor, if I might, we advertise this public hearing not only for those who wish to attend in person, but also if they wish to telephonically attend. So at the conclusion of the presentations by Mr. Hall or whoever's making the presentation, we should ask if there is anyone on the line. I think Rick has access to see if there is, but as part of the record, we should at least ask if there's anyone who wishes to ask questions and or make any statements regarding each one of these things before we take a vote by the board, by the council.
And we also have social distancing here in the council chambers. We got 2 members present, or 2 people present, public. So thank you. That gets us to item number 1, Common Council Ordinance number 20-02, an ordinance approving sewage works revenue bonds Series 2020 to finance improvements to the sewage works system. We have actually had this on the agenda for 3 council meetings now, and it did not hold up the work that we're proposing to do for the construction that's going on out on the east side and will for 20 years or so worth of growth. So, Rich Hall, can you update us?
Sure. This ordinance approves the issuance of bonds by the city payable from the sewage works, and it's part of the overall financial plan that was discussed this spring and incorporated the rate increase. So from this series of bonds, which would be issued in an amount not to exceed $5.25 million, would be funded the East Side Interceptor and the West Side Interceptor and lift station also on the East Side and the West Side, as well as sanitary sewer and manhole rehabilitation throughout the city. The bonds would be payable for over a period of not more than 25 years, and we would competitively sell the bonds so that the city receives the lowest interest rate possible. If the council were to move forward this evening, we would look at a bond sale late in May or early June, and then a closing later in June. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So anyone from the council have a question for Rick? Okay, at this point, I think I'll open it up for a public hearing. If there's someone on the call that would like to say something. I know I talked to Richard Wirtz today. He acted like he was going to call in. Did you call in, Richard? He's not? Okay. All right. Do any of you gentlemen in the crowd want to say? The crowd. You notice I said the crowd? So, all right. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I might, for the council members as well, if you'll recall, we also had the hearings related to the rate increases that, as Rick appropriately pointed out, are part parcel of this bond ordinance. We did not have any remonstrance, nor did we have any objections at the public hearings dealing with the rate increases either. So I wanted to put that on the record for council members to consider as well.
okay. Anybody else before someone makes a motion? Okay, hearing no questions for Mr. Hall, I think we're ready for a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve Common Council Ordinance 20-02.
A motion by Council President Austin. Second by Mr. Blankenship. So we will do a roll call vote. You want to do it? You want me to do it? I'll just do it. I'm right here where everybody can hear me good. So Ken Austin.
Aye.
Dan Blankenship.
Aye.
Bob Hukin.
Aye.
Lisa Jones.
Aye.
Ann McGinnis.
Aye.
Chris Reinerson.
Aye.
Sean Taylor.
Aye.
Okay, we have 7 ayes, passes unanimously. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hall. Now you can go to work.
Mayor,
Thank you.
if I might just, to advise the council, we anticipate, May 4th coming forward with the other portion about sewer capacity fees and permit fees for introduction. That's the other thing that the council members discussed before we went into pandemic mode, if you will. And so that's being revised, and I anticipate it being on their agenda for introduction on May 4th, and Mr. Peters will be presenting with that as well. So.
And Jeff is, if you have any questions for Jeff later on, Jeff's also on the call. I know we already passed, but does anybody have any questions for Jeff while we're here? Okay, we'll move on to item number 2.
Thank you, Rick.
Yes, thank you. Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 20-04, an additional appropriation ordinance for MVH restricted funds in the amount of $544,640.22. Before we get to these 2 votes, I'm going to jump forward a little bit. It's where it's under other business. You guys seen that I sent out a list of non-road projects and road projects. I try to do that every year about this time. So we try to figure out, okay, what are we going to try to accomplish this year? Then we get with the clerk treasurer's office, how are we going to pay for it? And then we get with the council and say, this is what it's going to take to get all this work done. So I just want to explain what's here, and if you got any questions for me, feel free to ask. On the right-hand side where you see it says grant, right and under that, the railroad crossings, that's a grant of $349,000. Mayor McGinnis and Travis Underhill, they worked really hard on that before Joe moved on with the county and some other mayors, or Mayor Mark Myers in Greenwood and some other city or towns here. So our portion of that's on the other side, the $134,000. That work's actually has begun. The emergency signals, that's one that Mark worked on with the emergency signals, $601,000. Our portion looks like it's right at $58,000. The east side, East Jefferson Street, Westview pedestrian project. The engineering part of that, our part is $309,000. The $843,000 is a grant that Mark worked on, so that's our part. And then the school safety zone, that is to have flashing lights in all the school zones. Again, grant $250,000 Mark worked on. The school safety part of it, that's the engineering, the $35,000 for that. And then the alley projects, whenever it says non-road, you can't use MVH funds on alleys, I understand. So the $299,000, we've been working on alleys for several years now, and that's already been awarded for this year. Dumpster enclosures, we got 2 areas in town that were like behind the Old Mutual and the Art Craft, and then over here on 55 West Court Street by Benjamin's. We're going to put dumpster enclosures there. And then the pedestrian crossings, the Home Avenue, and at the Elks and Shell Creek. That's where we're going to put pedestrian crossings because people don't seem to want to stop when people wants to, cross the street. Mark's been working on that for a while. The next one, I will tell you, the I-65 Earlywood study. Mark and I and Jane talked, and I did talk to a couple of councilmen about this. We're going to put this one on hold this year and see where it goes just because of the economy. We don't know with the tax collection situation where it's going to go. So we decided to let that one go. And then I was asked, Sean asked me, and I think Bob asked me also, why do we think that we need to do that? Well, it's about future growth. And what got Mark and I looking at it, we have a lot of people was complaining about getting off at rush hour and in the mornings, trying to get on and off of I-65, and the traffic that's there now. And then whenever we build, I know 450 lots are being built out here at the Bluffs at Youngs Creek. So you take 2 cars, there's 800 more cars that'll be coming into town. And as we keep growing, sooner or later, we're going to have to figure out how does everybody get off the interstate at one exit whenever we have our city keeps growing. So this project is something you have to do. We did talk to the state. I know what I meant by that. This project, the $300,000 to do the study is what you have to do to be able to get something like that accomplished. So that's why we're thinking of doing that, but we are not going to do it this year, just so everybody knows. So that's where I'm at on that one. And then the road projects down at the end, the roundabout change order, $33,913. That will clean up. I think Mark's got an open contract. That's the last roundabout that was finished, and this will close that out. The $33,000 has already been approved. The $1.5 million project, this is above, and Mark will talk here in a little bit about community crossings. This is on top of that. Some of the community crossings will be used here, but not all of it. And then the striping, and go back there just a minute. I asked Mark, the 1.5, we're going to look more at $1 million and not do 1.5. Now the striping, roads need to stay striped to be safe, and we're looking to stripe, have Brett looking into which roads really need striped this year and see if we can do something there. And then crack sealing, the maintenance of our roads, that does prolong having to repave roads and adds to their life. And then the concrete patching we may or may not do this year. We may end up doing with some of our people. But that's what we would like to do. So that gets us to what we got as far as leads us to these next 2 resolutions. Now you're probably thinking, well, if the mayor's saying he's not going to do this and he's not going to do that one, why are we appropriating all the funds? So I'll just tell you, this is estimation only, and we try to get as close as we can. And then at the end of every year, and I looked up some numbers today with Jane. In 2017, we raked over $991,000 back into the rainy day fund that was unspent. 2018, we raked over $557,000 that was into the rainy day fund. And then 2019, we raked over $886,000. We left it in the general fund to be reappropriated, and the rest of it went into the rainy day fund. So I guess my point is that just because the funds are available doesn't mean we go out and try to spend all the funds. So that's my reasoning for not wanting to cut that out and lessen the amount that's appropriated. That way we try not to have to come back if something does arrive. And I will tell you too, and I'm starting to ramble on, sound like Bob Hukin, I'm starting to ramble, right? So we had some, I had to get a laugh at this. We had some unexpected, whenever we first, I first became mayor, we had a heating and cooling system, and I couldn't believe it cost this. That was one year we had to spend $1 million for a heating and cooling system at the rec center. And then last year we were kind of forced in to move our city court, and I think we ended up spending about $1 million on the city court. So we don't have those kind of expenses this year. So I just wanted to throw that out there. So anyway, that gets us back to line item number 2, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance number 20-04, an additional appropriation ordinance for MVH restricted fund in the amount of $544,640.22. Does anybody have, before we open it up for public hearing, does anybody have any questions on the council or comments? Okay, we will now open this up for public hearing. If anybody joined the call. two members from the public here. Do you have any questions?
Rick, you didn't mute the council, did you, intentionally? Okay.
Bob muted for a little while there, but feedback from Bob.
Oh, okay. All right.
I muted him.
Okay.
All right. So now we will close public comment, and I will ask the council if you have any more questions on this one. And these funds here are restricted to MVH funds. They can only be used on roads. So with that, if you don't have any questions, I'll be quiet and ask for a motion. I'm not going to let it die with lack of a motion.
Mayor, I don't have a question, but am I accurate in looking at your numbers then that if the council appropriates this, we will get roughly $5 million if we take the $300,000 out?
That's correct.
You'll do $5 million in projects, and roughly 44% of that will be paid by grants.
That's correct.
From other entities.
That's correct. And we talked about this, I stated this in the Board of Works, that we've been very fortunate that the last Mayor McGinnis, he and Travis worked hard to get grants and done a good job. And, I think Mark and I have carried that on and tried to get grants, and I think that's why we're financially sound, is because we continue to work on grants. So,
Bob Buchan, I'll move for approval of the ordinance.
Lisa Jones, I'll second.
okay, and just for the record, I'm going to say that ordinance is ordinance number 20-04 that Bob said he would make a motion to approve.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. Oh, wait a minute. Let's wait. I'm going to do this roll call. We have a motion and a second. Ken Austin?
Yes.
Dan Blankenship?
Yes.
Bob Buchan?
Yes.
Lisa Jones?
Yes.
Ann McGinnis?
Yes.
Chris Reinerson?
Yes.
Sean Taylor?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We will now go to item number 3, Common Council Budgetary Ordinance 20-05, an additional appropriation ordinance for General Fund Board of Works capital in the amount of $700,000. Again, that was the money from last year that was raked over, that wasn't spent and was left in the general fund to reappropriate. So at this time, I'm going to open it up again if anybody joined us for public hearing. Anybody from the public's in the audience want? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. Any questions from the council or comments?
Mayor Bob Buchan, I'll move for approval of budgetary ordinance number 20-05.
Second by Sean Taylor.
Motion by Bob, second by Sean. So again, roll call. Ken Austin.
Yes.
Dan Blankenship.
Yes.
Bob Buchan.
Yes.
Lisa Jones.
Yes.
Ann McGinnis.
Yes.
Chris Reinerson.
Yes.
Sean Taylor.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And if you notice, I called your names alphabetically ordered, by the way. I could have went backwards. But I'm known to be a little backwards sometimes. So thank you, guys.
Mayor, I'd make a motion to read new business by title only.
We have a motion by Mr. Austin to read new business by title only.
Second.
I'll
Second by-
McGinnis.
Okay, second by Ann McGinnis. New business. Yearly tax abatement compliance reports, Community Development Specialist Dana Monson.
Yes, good evening. This is the second set of the tax abatement compliance reports that the Economic Development Commission reviewed last Tuesday. They did recommend them all for for approval for all of these, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about those.
And you was at, or I think you was on the phone call of that meeting, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes.
Yes, we found that most of the businesses were in substantial compliance, and due to the circumstances we're under right now, we felt that everyone was doing the best they could given the circumstances.
Okay, any questions for Ann?
Council, is it possible to roll all three of them in one?
Yes, because there's various parts of reports of personal property and real property. The motion could certainly be to accept all as presented. If someone has an objection to one or the other of any, then I would indicate we should probably segregate that out. But if the motion is going to be to approve them all, that would certainly be acceptable.
So I would make a motion to approve all three yearly tax abatement compliance reports as written.
Mr. Austin has made the motion to approve all three as written.
I second the motion by Mr. Austin.
Okay, was that Sean?
Yes.
Sean Taylor seconded the motion. The one question or one comment that Lynn made, if anyone has any particular one that you wanted to pull out and discuss, now would be the time to do that.
Right. And Mr. Austin, when you say all three, you're talking about the presentations including both personal property and the real property. Several parts of it, right?
Absolutely. I just see report number 1, number 2, and number 3.
Right. But they
combine all three.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Again, I think we have a motion and a second. I think we'll go ahead and do roll call again since we've been on it tonight. Sean Taylor.
Yes.
Chris Reinerson.
Yes.
Ann McGinnis.
Yes.
Lisa Jones.
Yes.
Bob Hukin.
Yes.
Dan Blankenship.
Yes.
In Austin.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous vote to approve all the yearly tax abatement compliance. Is that all of them, Dana?
We did have 4 companies that have not turned theirs in. They do have a deadline, and actually the deadline was tonight from us. I've reached out, haven't heard anything else. So unless they decide to turn something in at the very last minute, this should be the final ones for this year.
Okay, thank you. Done a good job. First time doing them for the city. I think Krista was happy. I know that. Okay.
Yeah, thank
we'll move
you.
on to you're welcome. The next one is for introduction only. Common Council Ordinance number 20-04, ordinance repealing and replacing ordinance 18-04, authorizing the investment of public funds pursuant to IC 5-13-9-5.7. Clerk Treasurer, Ms. Rhodes.
Yes, sir. This needs it's a thing that we bring up every 2 years. It's an Indiana code that it has to be approved by you for me to keep our investments where they are, and if we decide to move any or need any cash out of it, it gives me the right to do that.
Okay, this is introduction only. Does anybody have any questions for Jane on that? Okay, hearing no questions, we'll move on to other business. I already went through number 1. I think Mark is on the call. Mark, this one is for information also. It's the Community Crossings matching grant that you worked pretty hard on to get. We appreciate the work that you put into it. So, Mark, if you're still on here, could you talk about what that grant is going to be used for?
I'd be glad to. Thank you, Mayor. Back in January, we applied for 2 grants for slightly different projects for the Community Cross program. We submitted applications totaling about $2.02 million, which made us eligible for potentially getting a $1 million award since it's capped at $1 million, but we have to also be able to put up 50% of that, of the total amount. Back on April 14th, Governor Holcomb announced the awards during his daily address. We were fortunate enough to get the full $1 million, so happy to report that we have basically 6 road segments that we're going to be able to do with this. The first 5 that I'm going to talk about will be under one contract. The bid documents are out for this project right now. We will open bids on Wednesday, April 29th, so we'll have a better idea of how we stand with the funding once we open those bids. The specific projects or the locations are Graham Road. We have 2 sections. There is about a 450-foot section of Graham Road just south of the Louisville and Indiana rail line that is outside of our jurisdiction. It's actually part of the Johnson County jurisdiction. There's a section on the west side that has not yet been annexed by the city. So we cannot use community crossing funds for doing that work. However, Mayor Barnett has had conversations with county commissioners, and they have agreed if we will go ahead and do the paving as part of our contract, they will reimburse us for the amount spent on that section of roadway. So we'll take care of that once the bids are opened and we have a contract signed. But the Graham Road sections are from Commerce Parkway down to just south of the Louisville and Indiana rail spur. And that's the start of the section that's outside of our jurisdiction. About 450 feet south of that, we'll start in again and retake everything down to the rail crossing at Lyndhurst Street. That would be a 4.5-inch mill with a 3-inch intermediate layer put back on and 1.5 inches of surface. It will also include all the pavement markings that are out there now. The next section is Eastview Drive, and we're going to do the same thing, a 4.5-inch mill and overlay between the 2 roundabout projects, the one at Upper Shelbyville Road and the one at Arvin Road. The next project is going to be Home Avenue, and that's going to be from South Street up to, there's fairly new pavement just south of the Home Avenue Bridge at Youngs Creek. So what we'll do is we'll just go to that newer pavement because it's in pretty good condition. That will be 1.5 inch mill and overlay. And then finally on Forsyth Street, we will do 1.5 inch mill and overlay between King Street and Hurricane Creek. As you all know, Forsyth Street north of the creek is part of that section that has been either reconstructed or is being overlaid with a surface layer as part of the contamination cleanup. And I can tell you that work is going to be completed tomorrow as far as the surface paving. The other application that we submitted is a bit different. Let me see if I've got to zoom in a little bit. So this is County Road 525 East, or Forest Road as it's now called. We're going to do a full depth of reclamation, which means we'll go in and grind up all the pavements that's there and the subsurface stone and any clay. We'll grind that up down to a depth of about 10 to 12 inches. We'll add cement to that and allow it to stabilize over a few day period. That'll give us a nice base layer of material. And then we'll come back and put 2.5 inch layers of surface over that. That project will extend from County Road or State Road 44 down to County Road 50 South, or Mitchell Road, as it's now called, and we'll add 3 or 4 foot wide paved shoulders on the road and improve the drainage along the roadway. That project's going to go to bid in August. And I didn't talk about cost of the two, but this County Road 525 East project, the cost is, my estimate is $1.325 million. The RDC will be considering a resolution tomorrow to fund 50% of that, or $675,000 roughly. And then the mill and overlay projects, the cost is the estimated cost is about $700,000. So about $350,000 will be taken from the LRS and NPH funds in order to pay the local match for that. I think that pretty well covers it. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes. To clear up, the 1.5 that we just talked about for this year's paving project, only $350,000 of that goes to the matching fund, so that leaves 1.25 left that we could do projects. And I've asked Mark to try to, for other neighborhoods, streets that are deteriorating, and we use the Pazer system to rate the roads. We'll be going in neighborhoods and hopefully getting real close to $1 million of paving in neighborhoods this year. So we're really starting to get ahead of the curve, I think, on our road system, doing a good job. So anyway, does anybody have any questions for Mark? Okay, hearing none. Thank you, Mark. That was a good update.
You're welcome.
We'll start with council comments. We'll start with Sean Taylor. You there, Sean?
Sorry, still on mute. No comments tonight. Thank you to the first responders and the medical workers out there that are helping keeping us safe, and thank you, Steve, for keeping us going.
Thank you. Chris, how about you?
No comments tonight. Just everyone continue to stay safe out there.
Thank you. Ann?
Well, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but I echo what Chris and Sean just said.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Jones.
I'm good, and thanks to everyone for all you're doing right now. It's much appreciated.
Bob Hukin.
For those that like to get up early, we're having an 8 o'clock redevelopment commission meeting. On the agenda, we're going to talk about the Shell building, possibly listing that with a real estate marketing firm. Mark's already talked a little bit about 525 East and just a couple other just small agreements that I think we're going to cover. It shouldn't be long, but anyway, the meeting starts at 8 o'clock. You can phone in if you wish to, using the same numbers that you did today. So if you want to join in, please do so.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, Dan Blankenship.
Just happy to be here and still alive.
Thank you, Dan. How about Mr. Austin? Okay, I just got one thing I want to add real quick, that on April the 8th, and Brett talked about this at Board of Works, we had the big windstorm, and I can't say enough about all of our departments, how they work together. Our street department was on it that night, and then they've done a great job of cleaning up the city. There's still some sticks out there, but it's getting done. They've done great. We've heard nothing but good comments. So, again, if you're still on here, Brett, thank you. Miss Gray, do you have anything?
I do not, sir.
Jane, do you have anything? Okay, hearing none, we'll need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Need a second. Mr.
Second.
Austin just said second. All right, thank you guys. All those in favor to adjourn, say aye.
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 Okay.